Hello, sixth graders. It's Thursday, which means we're taking a science test. I know it's not the most exciting thing ever, but I hope that knowing Tuesday you get to go on a virtual field trip will maybe help that a little bit. So that is kind of the big surprise. I know that we can't really do real field trips, obviously, because we're not in school and all of the COVID restrictions, but I hope that you can get something out of this virtual field trip you'll be taking on Tuesday. So let's go ahead and review. First, our vocabulary. Acceleration, the rate at which velocity changes. A force is a push or pull. Newton is the SI unit that the strength of force is measured in, and it's usually abbreviated as N. A net force, sorry, I don't know why that's there twice, is the combination of all the forces on an object. Friction, the force that two surfaces exert on each other when they rub against each other. Sliding friction occurs when two solid surfaces slide over each other. Static friction acts between objects that aren't moving. Fluid friction occurs when a solid object moves through a fluid. Rolling friction occurs when an object rolls across a surface. All right, up next we have gravity. It's a force that pulls objects toward each other. Mass is a measure of the amount of matter in an object, and the SI unit for that is kilograms. Weight is a measure of the force of gravity on an object. Inertia, the resistance to change in motion. Momentum, a characteristic of a moving object that is related to the mass and the velocity of the object. Law of conservation of momentum. In the absence of outside forces like friction, the total momentum of objects that interact does not change. Free fall, motion where the acceleration is caused by gravity. Sorry, struggling to talk today. A satellite satellites are objects that orbit around other objects in space and follow a curved path around Earth. Centripetal force, a force that causes an object to move in a circle. Remember, we also called it center seeking. All right, lesson 1. Our 3 key points in science. Acceleration refers to increasing speed, decreasing speed, or changing direction. That will for sure be on your test, so remember that one. Like velocity and acceleration, a force is described by its strength and by the direction in which it acts. A non-zero net force causes a change in the object's motion. 2 factors that affect the force of friction are the types of surfaces involved and how hard the surfaces are pushed together. 2 factors affect the gravitational attraction between objects, mass and weight. And then just remember, note, mass is the same on other planets, but the weight changes with the strength of the gravitational force. So remember, if you go to the moon, your weight is going to be different, but your mass is still the same, because obviously you don't change, but the gravitational force does. In lesson 3, we looked at Newton's 3 laws. So his first law states that an object at rest will remain at rest unless acted on by a non-zero net force. An object moving at a constant velocity will continue moving at a constant velocity unless acted upon by a non-zero net force. It's also called the law of inertia. His second law states that an object's acceleration depends on its mass and on the net force acting on it. The third law states that if one object exerts a force on another object, then the second object exerts a force of equal strength in the opposite direction on the first object. A lot of words, but not too hard of concepts. Okay, more from lesson 3. Inertia depends on mass. The greater the mass, the greater its inertia, and then the greater the force required to change its motion. And then we have the question, do action-reaction forces cancel? No, because they're acting on different objects. So we have the example of, if you're walking on the ground, you are acting on the ground, but the ground is reacting to you. So they're acting on different objects, so they do not cancel. Lesson 4, the momentum of a moving object can be determined by multiplying the object's mass by its velocity. Remember, we had the equation mass times velocity equals momentum. The total momentum of any group of objects remains the same or is conserved unless outside forces act on the object. And that was in one of our vocabulary words too. And then we had two different types of collisions, sticky and non-sticky. So sticky collisions, when two objects that have the same mass collide and stick, they share the momentum equally between the two. And then non-sticky, when two objects with the same mass don't stick, they trade velocities. And then lesson 5, free fall is motion where the acceleration is caused by gravity. Satellites in orbit around Earth continuously fall toward Earth, but because Earth is curved, they travel around it. So remember that centripetal motion, centripetal force. And then the acceleration due to gravity near the surface of Earth is 9.8 meters per second squared. That is also on your test for sure. So remember that one. That's it for a review. Go back and check other things or send me a message if you have a question. Otherwise, your only assignment is to complete the test for chapter 3. And that's due on Tuesday. And then, like I said, Tuesday, you're good to go on a virtual field trip. Have a great Thursday.